What is good, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video, a very important video, a very historic video, a video I've been preparing months, weeks on top of months for making it. It is my annual, second time ever on the channel, NBA award predictions. Now, I'll be going through the annual NBA awards as well as my own created NBA awards, in which I've titled the NBA AHS Awards. I know I've had a year to come up with a better name, but I kind of like the ring to it. So if I come up with something better next year, we shall see. But it's kind of a things that I want to see happen this season / a most likely to situation that we'll get into after I predict the annual NBA awards. Now, the reason I also said this is a historic video is that this last two pages that my notes are on for this, or the last page in this notebook. We've had this notebook for quite a while. I'm trying to think. What was... since April, geez. We went through a lot of freaking notes, but I already have another notebook prepared. So let's get right into my NBA award predictions. And we're going to start off with Coach of the Year. I've kind of noticed a trend with Coach of the Year that it normally goes to the coach whose team has the best record or whose record jumps up a bunch compared to last year. So I took that into consideration. Third place, a guy who I already think should have had a Coach of the Year, and yes, bias will be showing throughout this whole video. Taylor Jenkins. The Grizzlies will just be a better team this year than they were last season. Like I said, I think he should have won Coach of the Year the Grizzlies were the second seed for the first time, but I can't go back and change that. Second place, Chris Finch, which the Timberwolves were the second seed last season, correct? No. They were the third seed. Nuggets were the second seed. I keep getting that confused. But regardless, I think the Timberwolves will still be at the same level as they were last year, even after trading away Karl-Anthony Towns. And I think that the coach should deserve some credit for that, keeping the team at the same level. Speaking of keeping their team at the same level, my actual prediction for Coach of the Year is Joe Mazzulla. I expect the Celtics to be a dominant team like they were last year, and give credit to him. Next award that we're going to, Clutch Player of the Year. I never really know how to predict this award. I was kind of like thinking over. It's kind of like a MVP 2.0 award because a lot of top players are involved or won this award, or at least are a candidate for winning this award. So, third place, Nikola Jokic. I feel if you were to ask me who I want the ball in the hand in a closing situation, I think Nikola Jokic is definitely that player because either you can make a pass or get someone open to make a shot or do it himself, and we've seen him do that several times. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is my second place, same thing qualifies there. My first place, though, is the guy that I've seen make game-winning shot, clutch shot after clutch shot, even in the damn playoffs, Luka Doncic, who I will say was my prediction for this award last year. Speaking of my prediction from last year, let's go ahead and go to Sixth Man of the Year. I predicted Malik Monk to win, and I personally think that he should have won. But I think that the injury at the end of the year, and it happened when it did, and I still think he qualified, even meeting the criteria, because I know the 68 games and whatnot matter, but I'm pretty sure he still would have qualified for it. But I thought Malik Monk should have won it last year, and I'm running that same thought process back. I'm going with Malik Monk. Now, the weird thing is, with Sixth Man of the Year, and I will say that for all of these awards, I sat in front of my poster that I have on my door, and even I look at the hat, but I look at each team and think, okay, does this team have a player that meets this? So Sixth Man of the Year, it's weird because I could see a lot of lineup changes and no solidified six mans for certain rosters, but if a team has a solidified six man, I kind of lean towards them. So my other candidates for this second place, again, bias, but Russell Westbrook, I think he would have had a great chance of winning it last year if it wasn't for him starting, and then they traded for James Harden and kind of screwed the whole roster up. And I feel that the Nuggets brought him here to be their sixth man and do a little bit of everything off of the bench. Third place, Cole Anthony. He did not have the best year last year, but I think that Jalen Suggs solidified his role as the starting point guard, and Cole Anthony will rebound and play better this year than he did last year. And like I said, he's solidified as their guy off of the bench. Now, fourth and fifth place, I put 4 players together because it's going to very much depend on lineup changes. But fourth place, Naz Reid / Dante DiVincenzo. Before the trade, DiVincenzo is probably a great six-man candidate for the Knicks and probably still is going to be very close to it with the Timberwolves. And it would be a bit insane to not mention last year's award winner at all in Naz Reid. But they're at fourth place. And at fifth place, Alex Caruso / Isaiah Hartenstein. The Thunder have the roster flexibility to interchange and change up their lineups like I was saying a couple seconds ago. But before the Hartenstein injury, I kind of think that he would have been the one starting and Caruso coming off the bench, but I don't really know. So that's why I'm linked those two together. Also, the Houston Rockets have a deep bench because their starting lineup is probably going to be the same as last year. Van Vliet, Green, Dillon, Jabari, and Sengun. Off their bench, Reed Shepherd, Amin Thompson, Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore, Steven Adams, and I hate that I went through this because I know I'm probably forgetting people, but they have an extremely deep bench. So they could have somebody off their bench win this award. Maybe even Steven Adams. Shout out Steve-O. Next, we're going to go through Rookie of the Year. Probably the most difficult award to predict. A lot more than the past couple of years because the past couple of Rookie of the Year winners have been top picks, and this draft class is just not as stacked as previous draft classes has been. At 5, Donovan Clingan. I feel that the Trailblazers have a messy roster situation going on, and I know that he closed his last Summer League game out pretty good, and it's kind of one of the few prospects I knew going into the draft, but I feel that I think that he will perform well. It's just going to very much depend on playing time, and maybe the Trailblazers are like, we're going to go with this guy that we drafted pretty high. Speaking of that, Reed Shepherd, I just went over it with the Rockets. They have a deep roster, but Reed Shepherd, I knew going into the draft. I think I've seen a lot of people predict Reed Shepherd to win this award because he played so well in Summer League. But I don't know when the hell he's going to play. Zachary Shea, I think I botched that. I'm not going over it again. At third place, was the number 1 overall pick. I have no clue what to expect from Atlanta, but I anticipate that the guy that they drafted first overall will get playing time and get shine. Same thing goes for the Washington Wizards as my second option. Second place, Alex Sarr, where the Wizards kind of have a lot of players that are not solidified, where the guy that they drafted second overall should be. And I think a lot of people were kind of throwing him under the radar because he should have been the number 1 pick, and then he wasn't. He didn't play well in Summer League, and Summer League's kind of overrated. But if you play well, it kind of does mean something. My number 1, and I think that I am copying a lot of people because I've seen a lot of people predict this guy, and yes, it is biased. I'm going with Zach Edey. The Grizzlies are going all in on him. I am a bit concerned. I was concerned with our center situation, but seeing the team embrace him embrace the team, and he's done well in preseason and is kinda I don't like saying this word, but he's an X factor for the Grizzlies. If you're worried about Ja, Bane, Jaren, Edey's going to be in the way now. Edey's going to be a problem. He's my prediction for Rookie Year. Granted, like I said, it's kind of difficult. This used to be the easiest award to predict because you just go with the top guy. Or this year, that's not really a simple case anymore. So, bias definitely got in my way. Granted, I know I'm not the only damn person that predicted him to win Rookie of the Year. And hell, I just feel like I might be wrong with this. But probably not. Next, Defensive Player of the Year. 5th and 4th place, I kind of placed a couple of guys into the same tier, same mold, where they're very similar, but I kind of wanted to give them an honorable mention. At 5, OG Anunoby / Lou Dort, wing defenders that defend and do a lot for their teams, and it probably be a while, if ever, we see a wing defender win Defensive Player of the Year award again. But I feel that they are kind of, I'm not going to say one, I like to say one-man defenses might be a bit of an over-exaggeration, but they do a lot of defense for their teams. Kind of want to give them acknowledgement. At the fourth place, like I said, two guys that are kind of in the same tier, same situation. Jaren Jackson Jr. / Evan Mobley. They kind of got lost in the shuffle in the DPOY race last year, and we're playing out of position. Because Mobley played a lot more center. Jaren definitely played a lot more center, where now this year, Jared Allen and Edey kind of puts them back into their place as rim protectors and all-around defenders instead of having just to be the center defender. Now, third place and second place are the same two guys that I predicted in this last year, because I said the same thing last year that I'll say this year. They're two of the best defenders that have not won a DPOY, and we always have them in the conversation of the race, but they've still yet to win the award. Anthony Davis, and Bam Adebayo. This might be the year that Bam wins it. I actually predicted Bam as my award winner last year. He came very close. Rudy Gobert won it again. I don't have Rudy Gobert on this list again. If he wins it again, I would say we need to have a conversation. We should have had the conversation. The conversation should be done. But I'd be flabbergasted if Rudy wins it again. That being said, first place, Victor Wembanyama. I anticipate him winning several Defensive Player of the Years. I think they could have made a great argument for him winning it last year. The main argument was that his team sucked, but just stats-wise and what he did for his team-wise, offensively, but mainly in this case, defensively, he kind of carried, and that will carry over for a great majority of his career. And like I said, he's going to start winning DPOYs at some point. It will probably start now. Also, like I said, I love if Jaren won another one, but I'd be shocked. Most Improved Player. A award that I've made I dedicated a whole video to 2 years ago. I'm very proud of that video. And essentially, I was just saying there's no real criteria to it. The award is kind of broken depending on how you look at it and whatnot. But I kind of noticed, like, my criteria and the eye test that I see is that you have, obviously, the main point in it is statistical improvements. And then I saw that a lot of the previous award winners and nominees met these. A solidified role in the starting lineup, where the year prior, they were coming off the bench, and this time around they finally got a starting role. Was a first-time All-Star, which I will mention. I would say a great majority of the candidates I'm about to list probably won't make an All-Star team. Or on their rookie contract, which I think that a lot of these guys are still on their rookie contract or coming very close to the extension. So, honorable mentions, Franz Wagner, who I did predict last year, and I was slightly disappointed that he wasn't even really in the race, and he might be this year, but like I said, he's one of those guys that got an extension, and I don't really see him being an all-star, but he had that rough patch at the end of the year, mainly in the playoffs, and if that could be better, he can be better, then like I said, we can have him back in this race. Shaedon Sharpe / Scoot Henderson. I love Shaedon Sharpe, but he's already starting the year off on an injury, so I think that he would be a great candidate for this next year because I don't really know what the hell he's going to do this year, but I wanted to give him some shout. But Scoot is kind of the weird one because he was the third overall pick and did not have a good rookie year, and it's very rare that a high pick has a bad career or a bad second year, so I think there will be some type of improvement from him. But like I said, that's right as an honorable mention. He was a third pick. It'd kind of be weird for him to win the award. And Devin Vassell. The Spurs are looking for guys to build around and help Wembanyama out, and I feel that he's kind of the only real one that is close to solidified. It should be Keldon Johnson, but they do not like that man for some reason. They treat him wrong, but I think Vassell will have that role. And I forgot who said it, but it was definitely a tweet a while ago. But they said he's going to be the Middleton to Wemby's Giannis. I think that is a good comparison. Now, my fave five for this, my five predictions. At 5, Emmanuel Quickley. He started last year off on the Knicks, coming off the bench. Now he's with the Raptors. Just got an extension. I think that he's, like I said, he's got a solidified role in the start lineup. He's going to get more looks and touches and just finally has a solidified role. So I see improvement from him. 4, I would imagine Jonathan Kuminga starts. And I would imagine that he continues the improved play that he had last year. And maybe we should have had him in this race last year. But I think Kuminga definitely makes a good argument for this. Someone that a lot of people anticipated last year and are going to try to carry over the same agenda. Like I said, he's kind of in a similar boat to Kuminga. Jalen Johnson. So I went over his stats. Number 2, I was very high on him winning this last year. And then injuries and overall his team kind of got in the way of this. Jalen Duren. I think the Pistons are going to be better than they were last year. I know at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, it probably does not mean much because they were not a good team. But I think that he is, if you were to ask me who on that team would you build around with Cade, he is up there also with Thompson. And like I said, I just think the team's going to be better overall, and he's going to be better overall. But my prediction for this award winner, the guy that I think a lot of people are expecting this from, and I'm kind of going with my gut because, like I said, I could have realistically probably named somebody from each team being a candidate for this award, but I just think that he sticks out the most and was my gut prediction, Cam Thomas. So now we get to the last of the NBA awards, Most Valuable Player. I almost slipped up and said Most Improved Player again. I have 15 names. The top 5 are the main ones that matter. But that leaves us with 10 honorable mentions. Some are in tiers / grouped together, and I'll explain why. So, 15-14, Joel Embiid, Stephen Curry, 2 former MVPs that I feel that still put up MVP level performances, but with Curry's case, the Warriors probably going to be that good. In Embiid's case, and I know it's a bit crazy because he just won the MVP award more recently, he's been on the record and the team's been on the record saying that they don't care about the MVP award. They want to compete and be in the playoffs. So I won't anticipate him being... He will be in the MVP race in the beginning, but then the criteria thing is going to start kicking in and is going to kind of screw his chances up. So it's not... Him being this low is not a knock at his playing. 13, Donovan Mitchell. He's kind of flip-flops in and out of the MVP race every year because his team normally has a high standing and he's the best player on his team in the case of the Cavs and the Jazz the past couple of years. But I don't think he's really had that consistent run to win the award. These next 4 guys I'm grouping all together. Kevin Durant / Devin Booker, Jason Tatum / Jaylen Brown. In the case of Tatum and Brown, it's a bit easy because they're going to be the best and top players on the best team in the East. But I think with their team being so stacked, it screws their chances of winning because the past couple of MVP award winners have been dominant players and not necessarily dominant teams. That kind of screws them out of it. But I feel I had to link those two together, especially Jaylen Brown, considering he just won Finals MVP. And Tatum is the best player on the team. I'm not getting into that argument. Booker and Durant, you could have that argument of who the best player on the Suns team are or / is. I think it's Durant, but the Suns are Booker's team. And I think that these two will perform well offensively. And the Suns will probably be slightly better than they were last year. And like I said, they're going to put up crazy numbers, so they'll be in the MVP race at some point. Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton, I just want to throw those guys out there. But my last honorable mention, someone that I was going back and forth with, having him in the top 5 and not in the top 5, Anthony Edwards. He's getting a lot of love and praise for his great playoff performance and his great regular season last year. I think it will carry over into this year. But the guy I had in front of him, the first of the first 5, is an actual former MVP, that being Giannis Antetokounmpo. That MVP / MVPs kind of carried over. And I know I've said this almost for every freaking award, but the Bucks will be a better team with mainly Giannis at the rim. 4, Nikola Jokic. The Nuggets each year are losing key players, and This will be their first time having to test if they can stay up to standards, and I personally think that they will because of Nikola Jokic, who is a former 3-time MVP, and he's going to keep them at that level. And he literally had a team where it was, let's see, Monte Morris. Was it Monte Morris or Austin Rivers? I was about to go through that whole injured year lineup where MPJ, Jamal Murray got injured, and then almost everybody the next season, besides Aaron Gordon, was traded or not in the league the next year, and he led that team to the playoffs and got his second MVP trophy off that. This roster is not at that standard. It's slowly inching towards that, but Jokic is a former MVP. It'd be kind of crazy to not have him in the conversation. Number 3 and 2. It's gonna leave you shocked because I've seen these two in almost every MVP predictions be the top 2 candidates, but they're the top 3 candidates here. Luka Doncic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Luka will win an MVP one day. That is very simple. Shai more than likely will. But my number 1, and this is extreme bias, and I will also mention this, that I have a track record of being right every other year of my MVP predictions. Jokic's first year, I said he was going to win, and he did. The next year, I said Stephen Curry. So, let me backtrack this. I have a good track record of every other year getting the MVP right. Because like I said, Jokic's first year, I got right. The next year, I said Stephen Curry. It went to Jokic again, but Stephen Curry, for like the first half of the year, wasn't the MVP because everybody was kissing his ass because he was chasing the 3-point record, and then he got injured, so he kind of went out of the race. The next year, I said Joel Embiid because he was way too close in several MVP award races, and I'm like, that can't happen again, and it didn't. Until the next year, where I said Giannis, because I thought he was going to have to carry the Bucks after the Damian Lillard trade and carry them offensively and defensively, and it would have been previous year, MVP year level Giannis, and it wasn't. So I am relying heavily on my every other year theory being right. / this guy is coming back with a vengeance. His team will be a lot better, and it will be a parade inside my city because my MVP prediction is Ja Morant. There, I said it. And I've thought of this for months and months. When I said I was preparing this video for months and months, that was the main thing. Shai, I think, is a great candidate for winning the MVP. I am extremely surprised he did not actually win last year. But I'm going with Ja over Shai and Luka because he's going to come back, help his team out, make them be better. I'm just going to keep going over the same thing over and over again. So I'm going to stop myself. I'm going with Ja for MVP. And yes, like I said, bias is in the way. But now we get to my favorite part. Yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed that part because now the fun starts. We were at the NBA AHS Awards as my window freaking pop and scared me. So like I said, we have 5 awards here where it's mainly things that I would like to see happen / things that I could see happening. So they are named after players / teams that I will further explain a bit more. So the first one to go through is the James Harden Award. This is the player that needs to be on a new team / traded. So, honorable mentions for this. Kawhi Leonard. I don't think he fits the Clippers timeline anymore, but I don't know if they can get anything of value back for him / what the hell he's going to do, just mainly because of injury reasons. Trae Young. I don't know what to think of this Atlanta Hawks team, but Trae has been their guy for a while, and I don't know which side's going to want the move to happen first, whether he's going to request the trade or they're going to be ready to move on from him. Time will tell, but I'm slightly interested to see how Atlanta starts this season off. As we come to the top 3, which are the main candidates. At 3, Zach LaVine. Kind of the same situation as Trae Young, but at least the Bulls, I feel, have better pieces to build with / I don't see LaVine really fitting the Bulls where Trae is the solidified start point guard. Where at the Bulls, you got Kobe White, who just had a breakout year last year. You made a big deal about trading for Josh Giddey. I don't see LaVine being a fitting small forward, and the top 2 guard positions, like I said, I'm not going to say they're not solidified as locks, but I just also feel that LaVine would be better suited in a different situation. Granted, the rest of the league doesn't think that way because he costs a lot of money, which is understandable. And number 2, somebody that I anticipate staying with his actual team for the rest of the year, but if he was actually to be traded, it would be league-shattering and league-altering, I think is the better word to put. Jimmy Butler. The Miami Heat have kind of been satisfied with being in the same position that they've been in year after year, and the moves they make aren't blockbusters or big deals, but they just stay consistent. And Jimmy Butler is looking for an extension and might be looking for a move and on to his next location already, because the Heat, again, like I said, are probably just going to be in the same position as they've been in. And like I said, I think a lot of teams would actually try to trade for Jimmy, but it's just past the season is the question mark. That's why I think he's going to stay with the Heat for this year, and then at the end of the year, it might be different. My James Harden Award winner is a very similar situation as Jimmy, but the team is a weirder situation. And he's been in trade rumors all off season. Brandon Ingram. I don't know what this Pelicans roster is going to look like. I imagine that Zion / Herb Jones is going to be at center. Like I said, Brandon Ingram was in trade rumors all off season, but the main reason he wasn't traded is because a lot of the centers that they potentially could have got are not better than Brandon Ingram, and so they didn't want to trade for a player that's not better than the guy that they're getting rid of. But I think it's time for him to move on because there's a lot of other players in his position / there's a position need there at center. Now, the Bruce Brown Award. Now, it is weird because these award names are based on last season. So you got to think of going into the 2023-2024 season, the situations that were going on. So James Harden was on the Sixers, ready to move on to another team. So he was a player that needed to be on a new team. And what's funny is that we've had this situation with him several times. So it happened to him so much, the award was named after him. Bruce Brown, who every year we can name this after somebody different, but it's just the case of he was the inaugural, he was the first one. The offseason acquisition that will have the biggest effect and my determining factor of it being Bruce Brown is when the Nuggets won the title. He was the offseason acquisition that they had, and he helped the Nuggets win the title. So, my top 3 are not Bruce Brown level players. My honorable mentions are KCP, Gary Trent Jr., and Buddy Hield. I almost called him Gary Hield. My prediction for this award is Karl Anthony Towns because I think he makes this Knicks team a completely different team and a good, reliable option for their number 2, who could sometimes be a number 1 option. So I think Cat's probably going to be the biggest and most effective offseason acquisition. Second place, I hope it's DeMar DeRozan. I want to see the Kings be consistent and a good team. And I might be a little bit ludicrous in saying that I kind of feel that they are very similar to that Bulls team that DeMar first went to. It's just the Bulls' defense was a lot better than the Kings, but time will tell. But I think DeMar, again, kind of makes the Kings a slightly different team or a slightly better than we saw of them in the past. And third place, which is going to carry over to our next award, Paul George. The Sixers were kind of mid / last year, and they're just looking forward to next year, and they were mainly doing that to see who the hell they can get, and the guy that they got was Paul George. Like I said, this kind of carries over to my next award. And this is definitely a stretch. But this next award, and it's my favorite named award, but it's the Talen Horton Tucker Award. So, this award, and it's kind of the most mean award out of these, but it's the most overhyped / overrated. Now, why the hell this is named after Talen Horton Tucker? When he was on the Lakers that year, they traded for Russell Westbrook, and the Lakers sucked. He missed games, and there's people saying, just wait till THT comes back, wait till THT comes back, and he did jack shit. But the main reason is there's a Bleacher Report article. I've linked it several times. I might have to link it again. If y'all want me to link again, I will, because you might be shocked by it. But it was top 25, under 25. And at number 21 was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And at number 20, the spot above Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, was THT. And now look at him. THT's closing out preseason games, and Shai is in the MVP conversation. So this is why it's the most overrated award. Now, like I said, speaking of Paul George, I have him at the top of this list because I have said this several times. I think the Sixers and Paul George are just way too similar for Paul George to get them over the hump. I just think, and the best way that I describe this is the player that we're talking about now and how we're hyping them now, once the season ends, are they still going to be at that same level? And I just think they're going to be back in this same conversation where Paul George disappoints or the 76ers disappoints. It's going to be one of the two, but he's not going to get them over that hump. 2 and 3, again, bit of stretches, but at number 2, I had Isaiah Hartenstein. I do think he makes the Thunder a bit dangerous because of the lineup possibilities that they have for their team, mainly because of him. But he also is making a lot of freaking money, and he's not really one of the top centers in the league, even though a lot of people think he is, and he got a lot of hype because he was on the Knicks. But I do think he's not going to be bad, and he's not like a terrible player. And number 3, and this is going back to the Pelicans, CJ McCollum / Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy is mainly the guy that's causing this drama, in my opinion, with the Pelicans because it kind of seems that they're ready to push Trey Murphy to the next level, and by doing that, they're pushing Brandon Ingram out of the way, where he's not at the level as Ingram. He's kind of close, but I don't really know if this is all worth it for it. And like I mainly mentioned CJ McCollum because the Pelicans have lineup questions, and I think that CJ is going to be in their closing lineup and be one of their main guys. And I personally think he'd be better suited as the guy that they trade or as the guy coming off their bench. And I know that's a bit insane because, like I said, he's making a lot of money. But I mainly am going back to the playoffs last year, Game 1, where I thought the Pelicans were going to win, and then he was the guy that missed that shot. So I know this award was a bit of a stretch. I will say I hit this nail right on the head last year because I said Austin Reeves and Josh Giddey. I was wrong about Jalen Williams, but I was right about those top two because going into the season, this is the future. This is the next big thing. And one of them got traded, and one of them doesn't even get talked about anymore. So Paul George will definitely be talked about next season. But will it be for a good thing or a bad thing? We'll have to wait a while for that. We got 2 more awards left. The Ja Morant Award. It is the Comeback Player of the Year / Player I'm most excited to see / Breakout Player of the Year. I kind of eliminated the last stipulation because that's more so a Most Improved Player Award. So this mainly became the Comeback Player of the Year Award. Last year, I hit this one right on the head as well because I said Kyrie Irving because he was coming off that Nets tenure where it was just a mess, and then he came to Dallas, helped them make to the finals, and was exciting to watch. At 3, a guy I mentioned earlier, Zach LaVine. I just want to see him back at playing because even last year, it was just not a good watch and then the injury happened, and so it kind of completely got wiped away. And I kind of hope that he comes out and plays like the Zach LaVine of old and showcases what he could do. At number 2 and number 1, number 2 is LaMelo Ball. We have not seen a consistent year out of LaMelo out of his career, but his first 2 years in the league, his team was in the play-in, and he was the main guy on the team, where people were trying to shuffle him out as the main guy and make it be Brandon Miller, which I do think that's a little bit crazy because I think that they could share the spotlight. Time will tell with that, but I think that the Hornets are going to be better this year than they've been and playing for something because the bottom East teams, there's some bad ones. And so 2 teams will have to make the play-in and compete for the play-in for a chance to make it to the playoffs. And so with them having something to play for, LaMelo will come through in that. And number 1, the last year he could be nominated for this. I'm eliminating him from any further notice. It's a guy that's in a very similar situation as Ja Morant, drafted right before Ja Morant. Zion Williamson. I've mentioned the Pelicans a lot. I just want to see Zion play meaningful basketball because last year when we saw that in the play-in, it meant something. and he was playing at a high level, and then he got eliminated, and it sucked. And Zion was supposed to be the next big thing, and injuries have delayed that / eliminated that from happening. Can we get that back? Can we get back to that next level? And like I said, Zion just feels so forgotten, and I want him to come out this year and make people remember who the hell he is. And like I said, he's been in a very similar situation as Ja Morant and having to have the same conversation every year. And I hope that it stops for both of them. So now we get to the last of the NBAHS awards. And I just realized that I had to name this by the year, but the 2022/2023 Phoenix Suns Award, the team that needs the biggest change. Now, why it's named the 2022/2023 Phoenix Suns is this is right before they traded for Kevin Durant. They had Devin Booker and Chris Paul injured and missing games, and they were just not a fun team to watch. And I'm like, they need a change desperately. Then they literally traded for Kevin Durant, like I spoiled there. I don't see any of these teams traded for a Kevin Durant. Well, one of them could / want to, spoiler alert. But I just think that they need a change. Number 3, I went on a whole tangent in my standing predictions about the Los Angeles Lakers. I'm not going to repeat it, but essentially I was just saying every year they have some, mainly with LeBron, they have some storyline, and it just doesn't seem it's going to lead to productive / championship level playing. And the main thing that I'm going to get at, because I don't think I've publicly said it, but I've thought this for quite a while, what the hell is their plan when LeBron is gone? What the hell is their plan / what the hell they're going to do with Anthony Davis? And I hope that at some time before LeBron retires or leaves the team, because that could happen as well, that gets answered. And like I said, they're kind of in a Miami Heat situation where they're okay with being in the same position that they're in. But they do try to make trades. The Heat, I think they kind of shrug their shoulders at doing trades sometimes. At number 2 and number 1, I will admit, it might be a bit extreme, but it's mainly for my enjoyment. At 2, the Houston Rockets. They have the potential to get a guy or two to take them to the next level / contending, which is what they want to do because they were rumored to want Kevin Durant or Jimmy Butler. I think they should go and try to get Jimmy Butler. But they have a lot of rotational playing guys, and you just can't play every single one of them and expect them to be okay with it / productive. And so a move might need to be made / who the hell are your core guys? It's kind of leaning back to the Lakers situation because I thought their big 3 should be Jalen Green, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Sengun. But I don't think they feel that same way. The only guy out of those 3 that I just named they probably feel that way about is Sengun. So who just solidify your core. And that goes exactly the same for my first place, the Portland Trail Blazers, where they have a lot of rotational guys, but the thing with them is that they're a lot older compared to the guys that I think should be their core who are literally on their rookie contracts still. I think they should be building around Scoot, Sharp, Klingon. You got Simons, Grant, Tom Lord, Ayton. Denny is kind of in the middle, so I think that's how that would work. I think I'm excited. I want to see Scoot and Sharp together. But Simons is in the way of that. Injuries are in the way of that. But it's also like, I don't think there's a move out there that put them over the next big level. And it's also their second year of their rebuild. So we can wait it out another year. But I'm personally excited to see Scoot and Sharp together. They've added Klingon. What the hell they're going to do with Ayton, time will tell. I'm out of breath. I'm out of time because I just sat here for 40 freaking minutes doing this. But like I said, this is an important video, the last one of this notebook, as it is now closed. If I don't make a video the rest of this week, it is for good reason, because I want to sit back and I want you to sit back and watch some NBA action, because the next video that is planned is Shooting the Breeze, which will be my NFL Week 8 predictions / talking about NBA basketball. I just don't know if I'll do it Thursday or Saturday we'll just have to wait and see there. So hopefully you enjoyed all of this, and if you sat through this, I greatly appreciate it. It's kind of difficult to go through so many topics and players and thought process and ideas without blabbing and going through it. I could have made it a lot shorter, but I just would have probably left you scratching your head a lot more than you already did. But I do, again, like I said, I do appreciate you for watching this all if you did. Please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you have not. I will see you in the next one. I'm going to drink some water. You probably should too.